take stock of all the opinions in Washington, you see a trend. And the trend is you get killed in the state court, at the trial court level. But I want you to think a little bit out of the box. Because you have to ask yourself, what is fair? If somebody owes me money, and I sell the note to someone else, and that person doesn't pay, can that person that I sold the note to come and get the house? Of course, right? Provided that they can prove that I had sold the note or assigned the mortgage or whatever to that other person. Anytime you can move away from the default tamed, you're better off. And what you think of is really rent control, because wherever you go, you're gonna have to pay something. If they work out a deal where you can make the payment every month and it is affordable, then it's better to take that deal.
I've checked in with my clients after I've helped them through a short sale. Many of them who start out saying, I don't even want a short sale, I'm gonna fight these guys. And I talk to them 6 months after they've completed the short sale. And I haven't had one that says, gee, I wish I could go back and do this all over and litigate.
Right.
And there under the short sale scenario, we always operate from, we're getting deficiencies waived, both on the first and the second.
Yeah.
We resolve that second completely.
Yeah.
There are tax ramifications that come into play. They'll issue a 1099 on that residual debt, the deficiency. But most of the time, those are covered under the insolvency clause that exists in the IRS code.
Yep.
In fact, really, there's no impartiality or no independent vetting of the validity of that beneficiary, then there's a problem. But Trujillo is pending review, we don't know which way it goes. But if you take stock of all the opinions in Washington, you see a trend. And the trend is you get killed in the state court, at the trial court level. Then you go up on appeal, and you spend a lot of money, and you get to the Supreme Court, and you prevail like Bang, right? Like Schroeder, like Clem. What do you get? You get remanded in front of the same judge that didn't like you in the first place.
And hopefully you settle at that point. And see, this is why some folks interviewed me, and I'm going to be referring them on to you and Michelle too. They interviewed me yesterday because they're doing a documentary about SAFE and all the mosaic that makes up our anti-illegal foreclosure movement. And basically I was saying, look, you have to redefine what a victory is. If you were living in your home and you are fighting them and you are not paying them, I don't care if you pay your attorney or whatever you're doing, you need to bank that money so that in a year or two you've saved a lot of that money. And if you have to rent for a year or whatever you do, if you crash and burn on the home, you've banked money. And in a year, see, they've changed the metrics of foreclosure. They've changed the metrics of bankruptcy because they have to. So many people are declaring bankruptcy and being in foreclosure. If they didn't change the metrics of making you well again soon, there'd be no economy whatsoever. So, we have to redefine what winning is. Michelle.
Well, I think one of the, I actually worked in healthcare some 10 years ago, whatever, and it's kind of like you put together a care plan. I mean, when people come to me, we talk about capacity, financial, emotional. I mean, to go litigation, you not only have to have money, you've got to have nerves of steel.
And your body feels beat up every day.
So, you've got to determine the capacity, you've got to determine whether you have the facts, and if people come in too late and they haven't built that, that fact pattern previous, in terms of damage and whatnot. And then what are your goals, there is no free house.
Well, there's a new generation of foreclosure issues that I'm seeing and that I'm dealing with right now, which is all the people who got promised a HAM modification, pay the 3 months, didn't get the permanent, or they start paying on the permanent plan and they didn't get, and then they would declare in default again, right? And then you have people who get their house broken into while they were trying to get a loan workout. But it proves to you that the war isn't over, and that the banks are never gonna let you live in peace unless you find that peace yourself by fighting back. Because they're not going, the profit margin is so huge and the machinery is so big that it really, and we were told basically, by the defense attorneys, we're never gonna pay you any fees, we're not gonna pay the homeowners, because all we're doing is encouraging lawsuits. And I tell them, I said, well, then consider it part of your business, cost of doing business, because we're gonna be bringing lawsuits a lot. And it's not the lawsuit relating to default, really the lawsuits, the collateral issues, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For those of you who are self-doers, you know, you can look at your credit report and see what they've been reporting. It's a very simple thing. If your servicer is Bank of America and Freddie Mac is reporting or vice versa, you should dispute. You should dispute, you should send the Bureau a written dispute, you should send Bank of America a dispute, you send Freddie, because the furnishers have their own liability, and then the CRA, the credit reporting agency, has their own. But be vigilant about it, that's where you spend the time. Don't go after things that you can't even articulate yourself. Because a lot of times, clients come in and they say, well, I heard of this theory, and they can't tell me why that works. And if you can't articulate it, I can't understand what you're trying to say, and I can't communicate that to the fact finder.
And here's the thing that I've just noticed recently, that dovetails with what you just mentioned. The new claim, it's not the breach of covenant of good faith and fair dealing, but the new claim I'm seeing some success with is the clean hands doctrine. And that was featured.
What does that mean?
Basically, it's an equitable argument.
That you're
But
not
it's,
honest, that you're practicing deception, and you're preventing the other party from getting to the truth, right? You can't come into court with dirty hands and ask for justice, is the concept. But again, it's all about documentation, it's all about evidence. That guy has everything, my client has nothing. He has access to nothing, he can't get to any evidence. And to the extent that evidence can be fabricated, my client can't really help that. Because they don't know, they can't really have any input. And trust me, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen, the case that we're litigating right now have 4 different versions of the note.
Yeah.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4. And when we asked the witness in deposition, the 30B6 representative, I said, can you account for these variations? And he said, I can't. And your time is money, so if you spend the time researching, and I know a lot of you spend a lot of time, document them. Let's say I could go out and work today for somebody and make $20 an hour, but I spend 80 hours this week looking at this. Well, yeah, you're not gonna get all 80 hours, but the judge understands that you've been injured because you spent time that you could have devoted to making a living or making money, and you're doing all this.